Welcome to Sahara TV's flagship program, State of the Nation, and joining us is a human rights activist and the convener of Concerned Nigerians, Deji Adeyanju. It's a pleasure having you on Sahara TV again, Deji.
Thank you so much for having me.
APC is set to unveil its vice presidential candidate on Wednesday, and there's been a lot of talk about this. There's been a lot of uproar and outcry over the choice, a lot of pushback, so to say, considering the clear dichotomy on religious lines and considering the religious strife and fault lines we have in this country. Why is the choice of Kashim Shettima so controversial from your perspective?
Yes, his choice as vice presidential candidate of the main the ruling party, is controversial because Shettima has always been in the eye of the storm. He was at the center, the epicenter of the Chibok girls' abduction. He was the one who made everything possible for the abduction to happen because government had given an advisory at then that there were imminent threats and that Boko Haram was likely to strike, and government had directed at the federal level for schools to be shut. Shettima kept schools open even when there was security advisory to that effect. And we saw the drama that followed the abduction and the politicization of the abduction. In fact, that was one of the main campaign of the then opposition. Again, Shettima had been had so many questions to answer around Boko Haram links and other sundry issues. And Shettima had one time said that if he speaks on what he knows about Boko Haram, the country will burn. And many of us have been yearning for him to speak ever since then, but he has refused to speak. So those are some of the issues. And again, considering some of his remarks, about the Igbos in the country, there was a trending audio for some time between him and a former governor in the Southwest.
Yes.
And the remarks he made against a particular major tribe in Nigeria. So those are things that should never should have prevented him from even being on the ticket with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but they just do not care about public perception.
Considering the fact that now that Tinubu has settled for a Muslim candidate and for the reason of political expediency, what will the optic look like for the APC come 2023 elections? And considering the fact that the optics of picking a Muslim as vice president will create a toxic political environment in our election year, do you see that?
Yeah, basically the settling for Muslim ticket is an affront on the divergent religious inclination of citizens, because the whole idea is to balance the ticket, and even the whole idea of the Constitution is about unity, national integration, and that's why the Constitution, we're not only operating a federal system of government, we are actually operating an inclusive federal system of government. And that's why if you look at the careful drafting of the Constitution has put into consideration the interests of all federating units and the interests of all religious groups. And as a secular state, the secular state is expected that interests of all parties should be balanced on any ticket. And, this open disregard for the balancing of the ticket using the same faith religion ticket, it simply points to the fact that APC does not care about national unity, national integration.
Now, is it just the APC? Because, some political pundits have actually stated that APC and both PDP are taking Nigeria on a downward spiral and on a dangerous path, considering the fact that they've gone in breach of the spirit of rotation arrangement by the PDP itself. And the same thing is happening here in the APC. Is Nigeria headed towards that path?
Well, I believe that the APC is more guilty in this regard. The PDP, many will have thought that the PDP will have learned from all its previous mistakes, and do the right thing and have zoned power to the southern part of Nigeria, considering the fact that a northern Muslim had just about to finish 8-year term, 2 terms of 8 years. However, their internal party mechanism, did not present an equitable ticket or an equitable option for Nigerians. But the action of APC is more brazen in the fact that it offends the primary purpose, of government and of even the creation of the country. Because if you look at Section 15 of our Constitution, which is in the Chapter 2, one of the most fundamental chapters of our Constitution, Section 15 of our Constitution simply talks about that the motto of the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall be unity, faith, peace, and progress. So if our directive objective as a nation is to engender unity, and the whole idea of that unity is that you must bring everybody together. Because if you're unable to bring everybody together, you cannot achieve peace and progress. Because if you look at the escalating situations in Southern Kaduna and several other parts of the country, you realize that same-faith religious ticket, especially in multi-religious enclaves, is not usually the best option. It has failed in Kaduna. The security situation and the societal situation has been worsened since El-Rufai experimented on that. And I also believe that that Section 15 also speaks about national integration. That's the whole idea of federalism. By recognizing ethnic groups, by recognizing religious inclinations and divides, by recognizing fault lines, and other sundry issues. So I believe that, yes, the APC has failed more in this regard.
Part of the arguments that Bola Ahmed Tinubu actually put up in support of his choice of Shetima was the fact that in 1993, MKO Abiola chose the fellow Muslim running mate Babagana Kingibe in one of the fiercest and fairest elections ever held, and that the spirit of 1993 is upon us again in 2023. Do you agree with that sentiment?
The argument is not tenable because the country is more divided. President Buhari has divided the country so much in the last 7 years. If you look at the security situation in the country and the tensions that we have witnessed, this is not even, it does not conform with either the political objective, economic or social objective of the country. Because if the whole idea is just about winning, then after winning, how then do you govern the country? Because every step of the government will be viewed as a suspicion or an attempt to annihilate other religious groups or other religious people of other religious beliefs in the country. So it's not about winning, it's about governing the country and keeping the country as one. Because if you have seen in the last 7 years, the Buhari presidency has suffered so much illegitimacy because of these divisions and fault lines. One of the watersheds in the Buhari administration is the IPOB agitations and agitations for secession by Biafrans. So you are going to witness more of such things if a Tinubu presidency emerges, because the divisions will be so obvious, and they are giving room for those who want the country to split. So now religion is a very dicey thing. So I don't think this was a necessary path that we needed to go.
Considering the issue of insecurity, which you highlighted during your response now, questions are being raised as regards to, the recent Kuje prison break. And one begins to wonder, is Nigeria's under Buhari out of security options? What are your views on this?
Yeah, there seems to be deliberate coalition with main actors in government, because you can't just explain it that terrorists will have a free passage to such a security fortress. The Kuje prison is not an ordinary prison in Damaturu, Yobe, or somewhere else. This is at the heart of the FCT. Just right by the prison is 187 Battalion, just right by the prison. Terrorists moved for hours to come to the venue. They were not prevented. They operated at the prison for hours, 3 hours precisely. Then they left, unchallenged. There was no attempt to cut them off, So then 2 days or 3 days later, terrorists started releasing abductees in Kaduna on the train. So you can see that it was a well-planned government escape, in my view. It's looking more likely. This is why many of us have been saying that government has hand in insecurity in the country, and that security agents are now doing business, set up a business enterprise with insecurity in the country. That can only be the only explanation. Because if security agents can attack peaceful protesters and even abduct protesters, how much more terrorist groups? Now hundreds of terrorists have been let loose from the prison, and we already know what that means for the country. So this is the only explanation in my view.
Let's get your reactions too on the officials' response to the jailbreak. Some of the responses have been come with shock, condemnation, and the usual promises of bringing perpetrators to justice. Is that enough? And shouldn't this government review its counterterrorism strategy at this point in time, which has proved ineffective over the past few years?
The most ironic was that of the president, where the president was asking us to say, how can terrorists move unchallenged? How can they ride on bikes? How can they escape unchallenged? That's the most ironic. A complete collapse of government. It's like the president is telling us that there is no government in Nigeria. The president is asking us how the president is trying to hold us accountable for a job that he has been paid to do, a job that he swore to protect the Constitution of the Republic, a job that he wanted to do all his life. The president is asking us for us to be accountable to him and give him how this happened. And that is why you can see that there's no service chief was sacked. Minister of Defense was not sacked. Deji was not sacked. Everybody is still at their duty post. It's business as usual. There's no intel, and everybody is happy because the president is in the know. That can only be the only explanation, that the president is in the know. The Minister of Interior Affairs, he was there. He was also asking us how. The IG of Police was there. He was asking us how. DG of SS was there. They were asking us how. Everybody is asking us, even the prison authority, they are asking Nigeria, how did this happen? And this was a man, President Buhari was a man who was actually not trying to resign over insecurity. All the terrorists that have escaped from Kuje prison were people that corrupt PDP put there. This president has not put one Boko Haram member on trial. They have not jailed one Boko Haram member. All they have done since they came into power was to pamper Boko Haram members. So we can understand why they wanted to desperately release them from Kuje prison. So, Nigerians are not foolish people. Nigerians know exactly what is going on, and it's just a shame.
The ruling party, APC, suffered a monumental blow when its candidate lost the recently concluded elections in Osun State. Where did it all go wrong for the APC?
It had always gone wrong for the APC, always, because the APC did not win the last general election. It was actually the PDP that won it. They simply manipulated the elections and rigged the elections. If it had been free and fair, Atiku would have emerged president in the last election. Majority of the state elections were rigged, including that of Osun in 2018. We all saw how the presiding INEC official received a call on live television, and the elections immediately became inconclusive. We also saw how APC went to buy votes at polling units in 2018, prevented people from voting in the rerun, and practically hijacked that election. And the same, even worse, also happened in Kano in 2019, where Ganduje had apparently lost the election, simply lost the election simpliciter. But it was robbed. And so this time around, we must give it to Osun people that they were awake, especially at night, because that was where the miracle would have happened. I saw the president trying to take credit for the conduct of the election. It's false, because the president and members of his political party, especially APC governors that were in the state, were still trying to compromise the outcome of the election till the last minute. And if not for the vigilance of the good people of Osun, they will have succeeded. I also believe that the opposition had learned from some of their mistakes in 2015, and they had worked extremely hard to prevent that robbery last week, Saturday. It must also be noted that the opposition should not go to sleep. It's not yet Uhuru. As this current government is capable of anything, that it's not enough for you to even buy votes when you are extremely popular at the polling units. But you also have to prepare billions of naira for judges, because they also commit robberies at the tribunals and at the courts. So the opposition, Nigeria is in a very bad place currently. You know, the APC has now enthroned vote buying in the country, that even popular candidates now have to buy votes. If not, they do not stand a chance. You know, and this is the level that we have degenerated. We have degenerated from people trying to manipulate results to now outright selling and buying of votes in the country. It's only remaining for APC to make a constitutional amendment and put it in the constitution that if you want to get elected, you must buy votes. You know, that's how bad things have degenerated. These were the same people who promised change in 2015. Very unfortunate indeed.
The INEC itself was actually praised for its conduct of the elections, considering the adoption of the bimodal voter accreditation system, which was designed to read the PVCs and authenticate voters. This was said to have prevented the incumbent of powers to infiltrate the electoral process. What's your assessment and prognosis of this?
Yeah, INEC has tremendously tried. We must sincerely commend them, especially for the electronic transmission of results, because it gives citizens access real time to updates from polling unit results, from local governments to wards to polling units. And the transparency is just amazing. You know, INEC now has made it practically almost impossible to doctor results, you know, and to manipulate the process. You know, and we must commend INEC extremely. However, this now is the reason why politicians have now resorted to the only option which is available, which is vote buying. And the APC is now doing this, is taking it serious like a religion, and forcing other political parties to also join in the act. But we must, however, also note that there are still some few INEC officials here and there who would be, if you see that there were specific polling units results that were delayed specifically, deliberately, if not for public outcry and pressure, you know, they were delayed because polling unit results are supposed to have been updated latest by 5 p.m. on election day, because there's nothing keeping it. By 6:30, we should know who the winner of elections are in any state in the country. So, because the new process by INEC is seamless, so there can be any explanation for INEC officials. So INEC must also use Osun as a case study to sanction polling unit agents and presiding officers who refuse or who deliberately failed or neglected to upload election results on time, and who are waiting to either maybe help politicians to subvert the process. This is the only way that they will send the right signal to their staffs and officials, or even ad hoc staffs, that it will not in any way condone electoral malpractice. But we must, by and large, we must give it to INEC, and we must commend them for a job well done.
Considering the poor performance of APC in general, I mean, the high rate of insecurity, the high cost of living, unemployment, the deteriorating education sector, among others, was said to have considered in no small measure to the rejection of the APC. What's the optic for the general elections come 2023? Will Nigerians be able to, reject this, stand up and reject the ruling party?
Well, the APC should ordinarily not even contemplate winning any election in this country, because the APC has failed in every ramification. The only thing that the APC has not failed in is it has created employment for kidnappers, and criminal gangs in the country. But in every other thing, the APC has failed. So ordinarily, they should not even, stand any chance whatsoever. However, with the introduction of vote buying, introduction of religious bigotry, you can see what Ganduje was saying. Just a day to the Osun election, he was playing the religious card. You can see what Sanwo-Olu was saying Southwest should come together and vote Tinubu because it's Yoruba, ethnic card. So they know that they are a dying horse, So they are going to bring everything available, religion, tribe, ethnicity. They focus on dividing the country along these lines. Then again, of course, they've weaponized poverty so much in the country. So the option now is the entrenched vote buying that they have already introduced into the electoral system in the country. We'll try to heavily rely on it. Again, I also suspect that the APC is behind the division of the opposition political parties in the country. And I expect them to extremely continue to fund the divisions. You will be shocked at the kind of high-level meetings that is going on between people who are supposedly running for president and who are popular, and with key members of the government, and even the Babylon chief. You will be shocked that these divisions of the opposition, that it is the APC, people in government and billionaires who are behind it. And if the opposition is not united and going to the election confronting the APC, you discover that the unfortunate calamity may eventually befall the country.
To be remiss if I do not ask you questions on the third force, still on the opposition. How ready is the third force, considering the emergence of Peter Obi and his running mate, Dati Baba Ahmed, as well as Omoyele Sowore too. This force, the so-called third force, in quote, how formidable will they be in these forthcoming elections, general elections?
My honest assessment is that the third force is almost non-existent, and they are just going to be a wonderful distraction, create a few excitement here and there. Peter Obi is not going anywhere. He's not going to win any election. We all know that. My brother and my friend Omoyele Sowore is also not going to win any election. We all know that, even though some of us are emotional about it, but political reality tells us otherwise. The country is not ready, citizens are not ready. People are willing to sell their votes for 5,000 naira, for God's sake. In the poverty capital of the world, people are not ready. Look at Barrister Pelumi Olajengbese, who was in Osun, who is from Osun, who voted, who was in his polling unit and his ward. He made a post on Facebook, very hilarious indeed, where he said when he got to his polling unit on election day, after voting, he asked for the agents of all political parties, and he only met only APC and PDP agents there. And he asked, what of Labour Party? What of others? They said the people humorously busted into laughter and said they are working from home because of COVID restriction. So you can see that this is almost 8 weeks after the presidential primaries of political parties. People are not putting in the work. All they are doing is making noise on social media. When you tell them to go and build structures, they start laughing at you. They say there's no structure anywhere, and many of us who are students of politics, because everybody is a political animal in one way or the other, we already know that there's no way that we can, upstage the twin evil of APC and PDP and their machinery, because if you look at it critically, the election is almost between the PDP and APC. It's a two-horse race. A very unfortunate reality, a reality that annoys me, but Nigerians are not ready to put in the work. Nigerians are always seeking for messiahs. Nigerians always love beautiful stories, and those are the kind of beautiful stories Peter Obi is currently telling them. And Nigerians love some people that get them extremely excited, and they just get in that emotion, and everybody is high on a sweet wine, and before you know what, the elections have come and gone, and so it's unfortunate, but we're going to rinse this again in 2027, and we'll repeat it, and immediately the elections in February come, everybody goes back again to sleep. Nobody will spend the remaining 4 years, the next 4 years, building structure or doing anything. They'll be sleeping. Then when elections are about 6 months or 4 months or 3 months to go, everybody wake up again. You see like 38 people, 100 people say they want to be president again, and we rinse, we repeat, we rinse, we repeat, and all that. In the last 4 years, since after 2019, only Sowore has been consistent to, be on the street, demand for all these people that you see that are today running for president. None of them spoke up when protesters were killed during NSAS. None of them joined the protests. When all the insecurity situation in the country, none of them has held APC accountable. But everybody today wants to be president of Nigeria. So this is why it is completely unfortunate.
Deji, thank you so much for your insightful perspective. Really appreciate you having you around always.
Thank you for having me.
To have a great day.